going on, guys? Welcome back. We just posted a video a couple of days ago where I told you guys about my issue with, I believe, my intercooler causing the car to get warm. Now, fun fact, I did just drain the antifreeze out of it about 4 days ago or so when I painted those thermostat housing parts and the throttle body elbow, all that stuff. I'm thinking there may still be an air bubble in there for one. All you guys left me a bunch of really good suggestions in the last video. I'll leave that linked in the description below. I think we're just gonna start knocking stuff out. So first things first, I wanna adjust and address the overflow tank. I wanna make sure that that thing is set up correctly. And to do that, we're gonna cut a chunk off this, and then we have some angle iron. We're gonna make a little bracket on the fly tonight. We're gonna go outside, pull the coolant tank off, and honestly, guys, I really do think that the issue is airflow. Let's get after this. Let's start knocking some stuff out. Okay, boys, we're outside, and if you look down here in the back is our reservoir, and I have a little hose right here, and it runs down and connects to it back here. I don't think that's adequate, and I think it's too low. So I'm looking at it here, and I have this spot right here where there's two open 10 mils. I think I want to build off of that. I want to have the jug sit something like right here, bring it up instead of down here, raise it up, 8 to 10 inches there, and have it sit right adjacent of our homemade catch can here. Alright, boys, so we got our bracket that we threw together, which is it's ugly. Obviously it's ugly. Basically what I did was grab some steel and just made something on the fly. I used a couple I believe these are nut certs that are on here. I didn't have the right size hardware to throw this together the correct way, so I have a couple of Phillips head screws that fit the thread pitch of the nut certs that went in here, and these things are very handy. Definitely worked for the short term, but there is a crack. I think you can probably see it. Yeah, it's a pinch point. She's just a rudimentary on the fly thing. But anyways, we're gonna take this, we're gonna bin it. We're gonna take and come up with a better solution here, and I think if we go a straight piece of iron going up, or steel rather going up, and then use the angle iron at the top, so there's the L shape is facing this direction, it'll be like an L right here, we'll be able to go ahead and drill holes in the back part of it and mount it to those 10mm holes in the back side. So I'm gonna go outside and take some quick measurements, figure out how far down we have to go, and then we're gonna buzz some stuff together real fast, and hopefully we'll have a better alternative than we had before. All right, so I took some measurements. The holes, the bolts rather, are 2.5 inches apart. So what we're gonna do is take our angle iron, and we're gonna cut a section, probably a 3-inch section here. So we're gonna lay this up, and we're gonna fire up our angle grinder. We're gonna mark this. Oh, so we have to do it sideways like so. We're gonna cut it right here at 3 inches, and then we're gonna smooth out the sharp edges here, these corners, kind of grind them inward so they're not so ugly and wild. And then we're gonna have a piece of iron come straight down off of that can attach to our coolant overflow jug, and hopefully that'll work. So here's what we've come up with so far. This is just a rough out. It's a piece of angle iron held together with a couple, well, these are a little off right now, I gotta adjust them some, but a couple little pieces of bar stock. I'm gonna tack weld these to here in the center, and then tack weld this straight section to the angle, and I'm gonna trim the edges of this down once it's all put together here, make them so they're not so sharp. we've got ourselves a bracket hanging here, and I threw some riv certs, I believe is what they're called, in. So this is going to hold our coolant jug here. I punched the holes for the mounting point, and it's pretty rudimentary, but it's going to be hidden by the jug. So I wanted something that was nice and thin, something that wasn't going to be very visible. And this is upside down obviously, but the jug comes to this lip right here. So all you're going to see is this top edge of metal and the two bolts holding it in. So we're going to black this thing out with some gloss black like we've been throwing in the engine bay lately, and we're going to leave it there. So I'm going to hit it with some primer real fast, and then hit it with some gloss black and some clear coat, and once it's done we're going to install it in the car tomorrow morning. Good morning, boys. We're back down here. Our little bracket is all put together and painted. Came out pretty nice. So now I have to come over here, put my paint back away on the shelf, and we're going to reattach the coolant jug to it. Alright boys, this came out pretty good. Put it under the light here. Super simple. We're going to take this outside now. We're going to see if we can get this thing slapped into the car, and hopefully it's going to fix one of the issues here, and that is going to be the low coolant jug. I'm going to show you real fast. Where we had it before was way lower, actually way underneath our radiator here. So I can carefully set this in this front end here. There. So before, radiator's right here. If you look straight across, it was down about here, which is underneath our blow-off valve. I don't know if you can see my fingers there. Now we're going to move it up so it's right up here, adjacent our catch can. First thing that I'm going to do is pull off this chassis ground right here, and I'm going to move it down to the bolt that I had the coolant reservoir mounted to in the first place here, and that's going to pull that wire right out of the way, so we're not going to have to worry about this one, and free up those two bolt holes. Boys, we are back down here doing some more work, and as you can see in front of us here, we have some more new parts and some stuff to work with. We have ourselves another pack of the old trusty 7mm gloves from Hardy. This is the Harbor Freight gloves brand. I've used a ton of different gloves. I've used AutoZone gloves. I've used a ton of different nitrile. These are the best ones in my personal opinion, and we are going to need those because we have in front of ourselves a brand new thermostat. This one is a 170 instead of the OEM 180. Here's the part number right here. It is 14077, and we also have another little sensor right here. It is our, let's see, this is our WTC 1066. This is our sensor for our dashboard for our coolant temp. It's got the little attachment right here. This just goes to the gauge inside of the gauge cluster. We're going to put that off to the side. We also have a bottle right here of Prestone cooling system cleaner, and one of you guys had suggested a great list in the last video about the overheating with the front mount intercooler in the way, and I pinned that comment, so go take a look at that if you haven't. This stuff right here is what we're going to try to use tonight. I do not have any distilled water, unfortunately. I couldn't get any from the grocery store where I stopped at. They didn't have any. Don't know why. That seems like a pretty standard thing to have at a grocery store, but I wasn't going to try to run all over. I had to go to what was it, Harbor Freight first, then we had to go to AutoZone, pick up some antifreeze back here, some 50/50, and we had to go to O'Reilly's to get some Redline water wetter. I have two bottles here. If you look at the back capacity on it, you need to use, I'm pretty sure, close to 2 bottles in the cooling system that we have, just because of the volume of our cooling system. Picked up some Prestone total cooling system cleaner from AutoZone, and then we had to get some more brake cleaner. So got all the goodies that we need, and what we're going to do, we also have a new coolant temp sensor coming, and these are all CarQuest parts. These are this is CarQuest, that's CarQuest. I have a good thermostat gasket on the current thermostat that's in there, because I just put some of the stuff in, but I'm trying to remedy this issue with the temps climbing and creeping. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull off our brand new painted thermostat elbow. We're gonna drain the antifreeze out of this thing. We're gonna slap it back together with some Prestone cooling system cleaner, fire it up, let it get up to operating temperature, and we're gonna drain everything back out, flush it a couple of times. Once we're done with that, we're gonna reinstall our new 10-degree cooler thermostat in there, which is, again, it's a 170 instead of a 180, and we're gonna add 2 bottles of water wetter, hopefully solve our issues. I also have some other parts coming in the next video. You guys will see those. They should be here in the next couple of days. It's what is today? Today is Tuesday the 5th. I have a couple more packages coming, one on the 7th and one on the 12th. So by the time I'm recording next week, you guys will be able to see exactly what I'm talking about, and it's all cooling related stuff, some sheet metal and some other stuff that we're going to use. So stay tuned for that. But for tonight, we're going to start knocking this stuff out. First things first, we got to go outside, disassemble everything, pull the thermostat out, slap it back together without the thermostat, and then start the car with this and water inside of the system. And hopefully this stuff right here will clean out any of the junk that's built up in there. If there's any crap in the heater core, it'll help with that. Any of the coolant passages in the head, if there's any like rust or a blockage of any type, hopefully this Prestone total cooling system cleaner will take some of the stuff out of it and clean it, restore it back to somewhat close to original function, because this is a new issue. And like I said before, it was 214 degrees and climbing. Didn't quite get the cell, but that was on a day when it was 95 degrees out. Regardless of that, I know the dangers of changing the thermostat temps. You guys should too. Unless you have ECM link or some sort of software in your car, you want to stick with an OEM thermostat. And that's simply because the ECU functions are set up so that some of them don't turn on or complete their checks when you're starting the car up with a colder thermostat. So if it takes longer for your ECU to register, operating temperature, which I believe, if I'm not incorrect here, on a 2G is between 195 and 210 is where most 2Gs float in that window of 15 degrees. So if your car stays at, if you put a 150 degree or 160 degree thermostat in your car and it never gets up past 180, the only way to really change that is if you go into ECM Link's coolant offset scale and you change that. Mind you, changing that coolant offset scale messes with your timing a lot, so you want to be careful with the amount of changes that you do there. Right now, currently on the car, mine is set to 5 degrees, so it basically tricks the ECU into thinking that the engine is 5 degrees warmer than it is before it hits that point, and that allows, a couple of different functions of the ECU to kick on, or some checks basically to go through, and we can run normal with the same amount of tune timing and tune fuel maps and all that stuff. So there's some functions that change. You can research more of that on tuners, dsmtuners.com if you want. But first, let's get outside. Let's start pulling some stuff off of this thing, and I really am interested to see the color of the crap that comes out of the antifreeze. Mind you, the antifreeze is pretty clean in it. I just drained some of it earlier, and I checked the cap and the overflow. All of it looks great. I don't know. Maybe there's a pinhole someplace that I can't see, but I can put pressure to it. The system holds forever. I just did a head gasket in it less than 5,000 miles ago. I don't know, guys. We'll figure it out as we go. So I'm gonna stop talking. Let's get outside and let's start pulling the thermostat housing off, drain the antifreeze out, and knock this out. All right, boys, so I've already been out here messing around with some of this. I have the elbow disconnected right here for the overflow jug. We're gonna go ahead and open this up. I've got the coolant draining down below out of the radiator into a bucket. And here's the plug right here. We're gonna take out these 2 bolts right here, pop this thermostat housing back off, pull the thermostat out, then slap this back on and shut it. Then what we're gonna do is dump the bottle of the Prestone into the radiator system here, the cooling system, fill it up with some water, and we're gonna run it until it gets up to operating temp, shut her back down, and then drain all this stuff out once it cools. Okay, boys, we got this thing all heated up a second time, and I'm actually on my 3rd rinse cycle here. I didn't record the first one. There's still some bubbles coming out of this thing. That's all right. we're gonna go ahead and drain all this and get all this Prestone cooling system cleaner back out of here. And I'll probably fill it one more time and give it one more rinse just because. After that, I think we're gonna go ahead and throw in our new thermostat. I need the gasket off of this one right here. This is a stock style thermostat. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys more about that when I get to that point. But for right now, I'm gonna pull the plug out of the bottom of this radiator and get all this water and cleaner out of here, fill it up one more time and give it one more rinse. And I think we should be all right. Here is the old crusty sensor. You can see the threads look like crap, and the connection point here, it's kind of tweaked. It's got a little twist in it. I don't know if you can make that out or not. Should be able to make that out. This thing just looked a little worn out, and when I looked at it the other day, it had a bunch of stuff on it, and I cleaned it off. And anyways, it's time for a new one. This is the Freshie. You can obviously see the difference between the two of these condition. This one's probably the OEM one. We're gonna put some stuff on here, some Teflon tape. These are 12 millimeters, so we're gonna go ahead and throw this fresh one in there. We're gonna go ahead and put our brand new thermostat right here, part number, again, 14077, CarQuest part. I'm gonna slap this bad boy into the fresh gasket, and hopefully we can help remedy some of this overheating issue, or getting hot. Not really overheating, but getting hot. So something else to denote is there's that little pin right inside of there. If you guys see that, let me check. Right here, it's a little brass pin right at the top. That has to face up, and this basically goes into the engine. Here's the pin side, and you're gonna go ahead and slide it into the engine with the spring side facing towards the motor, towards the cylinders, and the elbow goes over top of it, and then the two bolts go in like so. You don't want to put it in backwards, or I don't think you can, but you don't want to try to force it in backwards and compress the spring or anything like that. And you definitely don't want to have that little pin facing down, because if you have that pin facing down, what it's there for is to bleed air while the thermostat's closed. So when you go to refill it with coolant, you want the coolant and the air to flow out of that little pintle hole there, and that's going to save you a little bit of a headache when it comes time to bleed the system and burp it. Anyways, let's get out there and do this stuff. Getting laid out here. We've got our new temp sensor way down here in the back, that little shiny gold thing right there, you can see it. Got our new thermostat slapped in there, and now we're gonna go for the 2-pack of, these are not, you know, root beer or anything, these are the water wetters. So we're gonna go ahead and throw these in here. It looks tasty, but I guarantee you it's not tasty. This is something to stay the hell away from, because it's poison. We're gonna throw 2 of these in here. Here's one potato. Stick this bottle off to the side. We're gonna go for number 2. We're gonna pull our plug here, this little yellow spout, and we're gonna let this go in first. Then we're gonna add our 50-50 mix, and probably a little bit of water at the end of this, just to make sure. I like to, there's a lot of stuff in here still, it's all pink. I like to rinse this out with a little bit of water and dump it into that bottle, slosh it around, add it, get all that money out of there. And we're gonna go ahead and start filling this thing back up. Let's go ahead and pull this plug. It's the most satisfying part, is pulling this plug. All right, there's the start of it. Let me go grab the antifreeze. We're gonna fill this thing up. We're not gonna fire it up and get it all the way up to operating temp tonight. I'll see you guys back here in the morning for that. But let's get the coolant, throw it in here, and get started. Step 1 is done, so I will see you guys tomorrow morning. We're gonna finish this thing up and do some bleeding. And yeah, I'm gonna go hit the sheets, but I'll see you guys in just a snap of the fingers. What's going on, boys? We got all our coolant stuff plugged in. Everything's filled back up. Now we just have to fire this thing up, turn the heat on full throttle, and see what comes out of the burper here, or our little funnel. Hopefully some more bubbles come out, because if you squeeze the hoses, actually, look at that, a bunch just came out there. you can kind of get some more bubbles to come out of this thing. And I left this on a jack so I can kind of raise the front end just a little bit, and I'm going to move it over just a touch and kind of tilt it towards the driver's side being higher than the passenger, or I'm sorry, the passenger side being higher than the driver's side. And that's going to kind of allow the air bubbles to tip out. So massage the hoses, you know, do all that fun stuff. So I'm going to fire this thing up real quick. We're going to see how this goes. This thing sit here for about 5-10 minutes, get all the way up to full operating temperature, make sure the thermostat opens up, and watch the bubbles flow. It's going to take quite a few minutes here. So boys, we have been idling this thing with the heat on full throttle. You can see the little gauge there. She's been sitting rock solid at halfway for about, I don't know, 15 minutes maybe now, something like that. But I've been keeping an eye through this little crack on my fluid level. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, you can kind of see that. I'm waiting for the fluid level to start to rise up, indicating that we're getting close to the boiling point there, and there's no pressure on the system. So we should be right around 204 to 206 degrees right now. It's usually where it sits. Probably, hopefully, a little lower with this new system here. Thermostat's open. Both the radiator hoses have started to feel pretty warm. The radiator's nice and hot now. And I also used my jack to raise and lower the car just a little bit to help persuade some more bubbles to come to the top and then flow out when I lower it. Give her a little rev for a good measure, get that water pump spinning a little faster. All right. Now that that part's taken care of, you guys don't have to deal with the loud noises, we're gonna let this suck back down anything that it wants to suck back down as it cools off. I can still feel a couple small bubbles in this upper hose still. You can actually feel it when you squeeze it. You can hear the sound of the sloshing. I don't know if you can pick it up on camera, but you'll be able to tell when you squeeze the hose if you feel solid water going through it or if you feel a water pocket or a water bubble. So I'm gonna let it hang out here for a few more minutes. I'm gonna let it cool off a bit, suck back some of this coolant because it heats up and it pushes the level high. I started off probably right around here, half as much fluid. If it's standing straight up, you can see it's kind of moved just a little bit over that. It's kind of doubled in volume. That's fine. That's where I want it to be, and I'm gonna let it suck back what it'll take. And yeah, that should be good for now. Guys, we've let this thing sit. It's not fully cold yet because I gotta leave, but it did take about a 1/4 inch of fluid back into it. I always like to massage these hoses a little bit more before I take this bleeder funnel off, and all I'm doing is squeezing these hoses. The lower rad hose is right down here. Squeeze it lightly, see if any more bubbles come up out, and then you squeeze the top one a little bit. Everything feels fine. The lower hose is starting to get warm. The upper hose is pretty warm. I think we're gonna be all right. Also, so you don't spill using this extension here, what you do is you stick your little stick in, you squeeze your upper hose really tight, and then you install the little plug in the center, and it's gonna put a little vacuum on this hose here. So when we take this top one off, I'm hoping, oh, try not to make a mess, guys. There we go. I lift this up and off, aha, no drips at all. And that's how you keep it nice and clean. But anyways, guys, I gotta head off to work. The coolant system's bled. We have a new thermostat, a new temp sensor for the gauge, and we're gonna be replacing the other one here soon. So we're gonna have to do this whole process again. But I've inspected all this stuff from top to bottom. I see no issues. I don't see any leaks. And I think that I'm just scaring myself with the temps that I'm seeing. I'll see next time it's real hot out. I'm gonna drive it with the AC on and see how high the temps actually climb before I get nervous, because I know 219 is within the realm of reason with these cars. We'll see. It started to climb to 216 and I got nervous and I kicked the AC off and turned the heat on to cool it back down again. So maybe that was me being a little bit worrisome, we'll call it. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna dump this into a bucket here and head myself up to my day job. Should be fun. Stay tuned for the next one. We'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care.